Hi everyone, welcome back to the Kate Confidential podcast. Today's topic we're talking about is romance fraud. And I'm delighted to say that I'm joined by two very special guests. One is Kirsty Guest, who you were sadly the victim of romance fraud and you're now an advocate in this area. And also Anna Rowe, who is the founder of Catch the Catfish and an advocate for victims. So thank you for joining me. Kirsty, tell me first of all what happened to you.
So my story begins with me coming out of a long-term marriage. I was vulnerable when I left that marriage. It was a long marriage of 16 years. And I ventured out after speaking with friends and family to the online dating scene. Gone are the days that you can walk into a bar and have a drink and bump into the one person that you might actually fall for. The whole way of dating had totally changed. But I gave it a go. I was speaking to friends and family, and they'd found love online. I decided to go online and give it a go. I built the profile. I felt very strange building this profile, a shop window of how to sell yourself to somebody that might want to take you out on a date. But I did it, and I took some time and put it all together. And I let it go and see what came back. Eventually, I started to build a rapport with a couple of people, and then that fizzled out. And then one day I woke up to hello. And this gentleman was very attractive. And I just didn't realise that those 5 letters would change my life to the way that they have done. We spoke every day. He called me every day. From morning till night, we'd be talking all the time. We were building a rapport. We were building a friendship. We discussed certain things. I didn't give too much away at the beginning, but he made me feel secure. He made me feel like I could talk about myself. And we talked about, building a life together as you do, and children, and so on and so on. He wrote well, he read well, and I liked him. I really liked him. And I actually thought I had a chance at happiness. And he said he was a businessman and he would go away on business. And I'm a businesswoman, so that didn't show up any red flags for me. I listened to him talk about his family, his father, how he'd lost his father, his stories behind him as a child. He understood where I lived. He said that, he was from Leeds. He'd lived in Leeds. He did do business down in London. And again, that didn't bother me. He named street names and places that I knew, places where I'd been born. And I was kind of like, okay, he knows a little bit about where I'm from. Again, making me feel more comfortable all the time. So a few weeks had gone on and still talking on the phone and messaging all the time. And then one day he said, I've got to go away for business now, Kirsty. And I said, that's fine, not a problem. He says, I'll be back in 7 days. Then we're going to meet. Now, I wasn't one for video calling. I don't particularly like my picture being taken. So, the fact that he never offered that up didn't bother me. Actually, I was kind of okay with that. That made me feel better. I was looking forward to meeting him face to face. He said that he was going away. He was going to Istanbul on business and he'd be gone for 1 week. And when he came back, we would meet. He spoke to me all the time, even up until he got on the plane. He got off the plane at the other end. He showed me footage of the airport. He showed me footage of the hotel that he was in. And I was settled with that. I thought, right, he's where he needs to be. So I'll let him get that done and then I'll meet him when he comes back. We were still speaking and he was telling me about where he'd been and what he'd done. And then the 3rd day came and he said, this is me. I'm going to go out now. I'm going to do this business deal, get everything sewn up my end, and I'll be over to see you and we'll be together. And he was all suited and he looked very smart. And then I never heard from him for a few days, 3 days, in fact. So by this point, my mind was already reeling. And actually, I started to blame myself and thinking, come on, Kirsty, he's too good for you. He doesn't want you. You've got lots of baggage. You've got lots of this. It's not for you. And I kind of just got myself into that momentum that he wasn't going to call back and that I'd kind of blown it. And eventually he got in touch at night, right out the blue, and he said, I'm so sorry I've not been in touch, Kirsty, but I've been in an accident And my heart just was in my mouth because I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. He's been in an accident. What, God, if that happened to me, you know? He says, I've been mugged, I've been pulled out of the car, had all my credentials taken, my paperwork, etc. And I found myself in the hospital. And he sent through a picture of him in hospital.
So this is that kind of crisis point that often is created within romance fraud. So he's created that love, that need, that want. And I think I remember you saying this was sort of during COVID times as well. So obviously things were very different back then.
Yes.
People were less aware of romance fraud back then, and fraud more generally as it's growing. So he then created this scenario that was an exceptional scenario. You were within that, you know, coerced and within that situation. How did he then get you to give him money?
After I'd seen this picture of him, I was obviously very upset for him and I just wanted to help him. I'm naturally that kind of person anyway. He never asked straight away. He got in touch the following day and just said, Kirsty, can you do me a favour? I need some help here. I need to get into my bank account. I'm struggling with connectivity and I need to get into my bank account. I'm going to lose this deal. So in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, look, if I was in this situation, I would need someone to help me. You know, you're stuck over in a foreign country, you're in a hospital, and you can't complete the deal that you went out to do. So he said, can you go online and go into my bank account and transfer 85,000 euros, but in 2 payments, please? And I was shocked. I've never done that before. I had to think about it. And I said, I'm sorry, I'm not going to jump right in here. I'm going to have a little think about it.
Yeah.
And he rang me the next day and he said, Kirsty, have you made this decision? And I said, yeah, it's a hard decision, but yeah, I'll do this once for you. I'll help you, because if I was in that situation, I'd hope someone would help me. So he gave me the details. I put them in. It went straight to an international-looking bank account. To me, it looked professional. I'm not an international banker, but everything looked professional to me.
Well, you said you could see money coming in and out. You
Absolutely.
said, as we all probably would, you actually had a little look. And
I
you
did.
could see what looked like transactions and money coming in and out. But this turned out to be a fake bank, didn't it? In hindsight. But so you were moving amounts around. You believed he had a lot of money because you could see it.
Yeah, I could see it. It said 650,000 euros. And like you said, I had a really good little look around. Maybe I shouldn't have done, but I thought, no, I'm going to have a look. And like I said, you know, transaction going in, transaction going out, pending, all the way up until he went away. So, you know, there was no cut-off. They kind of carried on until he'd gone away. And so I did. I transferred the money. I did it in 2 separate payments, and both payments went through, cleared, balance changed. He was over the moon. He was elated that I'd done it. I felt like I'd done a good thing. And he said, that's fantastic. I love you. Thank you very much. And we left it there.
So he had then built that trust with you. So how did that then go into you giving him your money?
So after that, a couple of other days went by, and he said to me, Kirsty, I need you to do what you did last time. Can you go into my bank account? Can you transfer the hospital fee? Because I need to get out of here now. They won't release me until I've paid, and then I need to get back to the hospital, to the hotel. And I said, yeah, okay, well, I've done it once. I'm thinking, this is okay, I can do this, not a problem. So he gave me the details again. I went to put in his password, etc., into the account, and it came back with account blocked, change in IP address. Now, on the other end of the phone, because he was on the phone while I did this, he was furious.
So it's another one of those tactics.
Absolutely.
Again
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I was vulnerable going into this. So when somebody starts this sort of, I suppose, manipulation and bringing you around, you know, dragging you in, it's that rubber band effect, isn't it? And so he started to say, you stupid girl, what have you done? And I just was like, oh, my God, what have I done? And he said, try it again. And I did, and I put it in, and it came back with the same thing. And he was so angry. And he just said, I can't speak to you anymore. This is ridiculous. You've blocked me out of my own account. And he slammed the phone down. And I didn't hear from him again for a couple of days. So in that couple of days there, I just thought, I've absolutely ruined everything. I've blocked him out of his own account. What on earth am I going to do? Am I even going to speak to him again? Yeah, I was quite upset in that period of time.
And this was all a method for him to get to your money, though.
Yeah, now I see that. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? But then he called back again and he said, look, I'm very sorry for shouting at you, Kirsty. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. I love you. I do want to be with you. I know you've tried to help me. And I said, I'm so sorry. I really didn't mean to do anything wrong. But he said, but you kind of did. So because you've put me in this situation, I need you to get me out of it. And I was like, well, what on earth can I possibly do to get you out of this situation? And he says, I need you to pay the hospital bill. And that's how it started.
And how much was that initial bill?
6,500.
So what the listeners and viewers don't know is that in the end, that it ended up £100,000.
Yeah.
Now, you're a similar age to me. You're a smart girl. I've met you at length. You know, people are mean. People will troll. People will comment. But from what I can see, you're a professional, sensible girl who potentially, I guess, was under a lot of coercion at this point.
Definitely.
How did it get from 6,000 to 100,000? Or there was an interim figure, wasn't there? And then there was a bank trick as part of it as well.
So obviously 80,000 went through the business bank, but then there was other payments that went out of other banking as well. So it went from the hospital bill, the 6,500. Then it was hotel bill. Then it was flights. Then it was those flights were cancelled. I need more flights. Then there was food. Then there was living money. So before I'd even got 3-4 months in, 3.5, 4 months in, you know, I was already well into 40-odd thousand. In 1 month alone, I gave 35,000 away to one payee, one money mule, and I didn't realise that at the time. But you're invested at this point.
Yeah, because you said to me you were always trying to get that initial money back. And you're kind of, and they're all related payments, what you said there, aren't they, to the same thing?
Absolutely, yeah.
And you've got that kind of initial blame there as well.
Absolutely. I just felt I had to keep doing this. And the more you invest, you're thinking, right, okay, I've got this. I've got 40,000 here. I've sent 40,000. So he's asking for another 5.5 grand. So 5.5 grand, is not like losing 40. And all the time he was saying, I'm going to give you it back. You know, I'm good for the money. We're going to sort this out. I'll give you double. I was, I don't want double. I just want what you pay, you know, what I've paid. And that's fine. And all the time, you know, so I was in this, I say it all the time, it is like this manipulation bubble. You're encased in this little world that you can't get out of. You don't see it for what it is at the time. You're just constantly getting phone calls all day in the middle of the night. And it's, I need this to be done. Can you do this now? You know, he'd wake me up and I'd be half asleep. My children are down the hall and I'm thinking, I've got to do this because this is all my money. This is all I have in the world and I've got to get this back. And I do love him and he's telling me that he loves me and well, he must love me. And you just think, I'm doing this because he loves me and because I love him. And you're on a hamster wheel and you do get that rubber band effect and it's pulling you in and it's pushing you out. I'd already had that in my marriage, so I was already used to it. And it kind of, I just settled into that little void, I suppose. It was like, and I just sat in there and I felt a little bit of, it sounds really strange, but a little bit of safety almost, because it was something that I already knew. I'd had those feelings before, so it wasn't a shock. I just wanted to do the right thing. I wanted to help him, and I wanted
please him.
And I wanted him to love me as well. Yeah, and that's the truth.
Because you're that kind of person. And to this day, I say, for you, it's about doing the right thing because you've never got that money back, have you?
No, I've never got the money back. I pleaded. I have gone through 2 rounds with the Ombudsman. And unfortunately, no, I've not been given any recompense. And I've not heard from the bank, not from the moment that I told them that I was a fraud victim. They did what they needed to do and they locked me down. And then obviously there was the second scam after that as well. So I've had my fair share. But no, unfortunately, there won't be any reimbursement for me. The only thing I was told that in a way is that I was under a spell and therefore I would have given that money away regardless, which I don't agree with.
And just to clarify what you said there about the second fraud amount, you were then tricked by someone pretending to be your bank, weren't
That's
you?
right,
So it was a connected thing, just so people know that you've not made the mistake more than once without it being a genuine error.
No, it was a connection. So just picture the scene. I'm in my kitchen. I've just lost all this money. I'm in the worst place that I could possibly be. I'd nearly taken my own life. I'd struggled daily to get through just getting out of bed and opening the curtains. That was, my sister rang me every morning to make me do that because I could not get out of bed. I had nothing to live for, even though I had 4 beautiful children. I felt like I couldn't go on. And this one day, I was in the kitchen, 5 o'clock, pasta on, kids are running around, and my phone goes, and I thought, oh my God, I've got to get this call. This is them, they're ringing me back. So instantly picks up the phone. Mrs. Guest, yes, yeah, Mrs. Guest. And went through all they knew everything. They knew all my details, everything. They spoke to me with the same way that my own bank spoke to me. So I thought, okay, this is fine. And he said, I'm really sorry to bother you, but we suspect fraudulent activity on your account. Now, as soon as he said that, I actually had a ladle in my hand. I dropped the ladle and tears just started to well up in my eyes because I just managed to build £8,000 after losing all that money. And I felt like a mini millionaire because I had 8,000 to my name for once. I wasn't living hand to mouth. And he says, "Oh, sorry, but there's been fraudulent activity on your account. Can you open up your app, please? And we're going to go through and I need you to tell me yes or no." Yeah. And the phone call itself lasted 20 minutes. And in 19 minutes, before I put down the phone, they'd taken £5 of the 8,000. When I put the phone down, the balance changed and I just fell to pieces.
And that is fraud. That is clever, manipulative fraud, isn't it? I mean, let's just bring Anna in now. Anna, Kirsty's not alone in this, is she? This is happening daily. The average victim, I think, is £9,500 they lose. Yep. It's men, it's women, it's older women, it's younger women. It's not just grey-haired ladies. It's, as is the stereotype.
About,
Who do you hear from? What are the worst cases you hear? And is Kirsty's case typical?
It's unfortunately really typical of what we see every single day. And of the 10,500 reports that go into City of London, we know that this is so underreported that we can almost times that by 10 to start looking at the real scale of this. And the average loss of the money that's stolen, because although you're still saying, you gave away, you didn't give it away, it was stolen through deception. That's the whole point of these horrible people. It comes across as being quite a low average, but actually it's the way that dating scams, which include sextortion, are grouped on the fraud websites, or the reporting fraud website. Actually, the losses are much more in the region of, Kirsty's loss. It's much higher than we think, although women are often subject to a greater loss than men. That's just how it works. But demographically, it's 50% men, 50% women, and all age groups. It really, really is. I have from 25 to 80 with victims.
And you said different age groups are targeted in different ways as well. Some people are targeted for a visa. Some women are targeted for a baby. Some are targeted because they are potentially widows and have got or wills, so they can get access on wills. You hear from all
the fact of the matter is that anybody can be a target, and it's just if they happen to target you at a time when you were situationally vulnerable. And Kirsty was absolutely vulnerable at that point, just coming out of a very difficult marriage and then going onto a dating app you're vulnerable anyway when you open yourself up to love. But the story that Kirsty's been telling us, especially about the manipulation that happens, is something that is consistent across all types of romance fraud in that spectrum. So romance abuse, as we call it, is a very specific behaviour pattern where there's not one big incident that you can put your finger on. It is a series of very subtle behaviour building blocks that create a pattern. And the elastic band effect that you were talking about is consistent with what's known as trauma bonding and intermittent reinforcement. And it's sunk cost fallacy and cognitive biases, and basically fraudsters and abusers work on human nature, and that's why these are so successful. So right the way across from in-person romance fraud, it can be also, we talked about pregnancy, reproductive fraud as well, right the way through to online romance fraud, and that can include getting visas as well, and predatory marriage. All of them use exactly the same mechanism of harm, which is romance abuse in that respect.
And you said there's different techniques. I mean, we're all aware of them, but they're frightening techniques now, aren't they? Use of AI, use of changing of images, changing of voice. I mean, Kirsty's, I'm guessing that photograph in the hospital of your perpetrator will have been fake.
That's real.
Well, it's
real.
It's real.
Right.
Yeah,
it was
so
real.
that was it was my sister that found out that he wasn't who he said he was, and that's only because she took a screenshot right at the beginning, but she never told me. And then when I went to ground and I just took myself away from my family, you know, I'd arrived to school on the bell, if not after the bell, because I didn't want to talk to anyone. I just shut all doors. It was just me and him, and he used to say that to me repeatedly. It's just me and you, Kirsty. No one else will understand.
And that's
I had that
classic
ringing around my
isolation.
mind
Yeah.
all the time. And it's like everything you've just said there, Anna, is they just go straight for the emotional level, because we as humans, we can't change our emotional level.
No, we can't.
And they've got you.
They have.
And I'd have done anything for him.
And they isolate you as well, don't they?
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
isolation is a massive part of it. You hark back to domestic abuse victims, and this is exactly what those abusers want as well. They want you isolated so that actually what they're creating for you becomes normal. And that's very important. It becomes normal and it becomes familiar and it becomes safe.
I did
to
feel
you.
safe, yeah.
Yeah,
I actually
absolutely.
did feel safe, even though the stress was
Off the scale.
Off the scale. You think I was
Yeah.
robbing Peter to pay Paul, and I'm thinking, he needs money, I need food. I'll do without food to give him the money that he needs. My children need this, I need nursery fees, right, I'll pay that, but that's going to have to wait because I'm running out of money, but he needs money to get back, or he needs a plane ticket. And I'd give what I didn't have.
Yeah.
And it's...
And that's the whole point about how that works in that mechanism of harm, is that they create the pain, but they also become the relief.
Yeah.
And that's how this abuse cycle works. And that's how they keep you in that roller coaster. And what we need to understand about that, because people from the outside will say, well, I can look at that and see exactly what was going on. But what these behaviours do is trigger these hormones and chemical rushes in our body. And when we have sustained levels of cortisol, that means it's constantly high. It means that our logical and rational thinking is impaired. So they need to keep you in this state of heightened emotion because they know that you won't be thinking logically at that point. You just have the fear and relief cycle going on, and that's how they keep you in it.
And Kirsty, you're incredibly brave for speaking out about this. And you're now an advocate, really, for talking on the behalf of, and I hate calling you a victim, but that is the title that's given. But people are incredibly mean. You said people have shouted at you in the street.
Oh, gosh, yeah. I've walked down the street and people have gone, lend us 10 grand, Kirsty. I've had people say, I can't believe you've fallen for that. Well, I didn't fall for it. I didn't fall for anything. I just wanted to find love. That's all I actually did, is do what thousands and thousands of people, with success, most of them, go and find love. Because the honesty here is, why does anybody want to be unhappy? Does anybody want to be alone? So just because I went out to search for that happiness, because you can't walk into somewhere and find it anymore, is it okay that happens to me? No,
And
it's
is it
not.
okay that platforms are allowing that
it to happen?
And this is where the use of AI needs to change. So the criminals, as you were just saying a minute ago, we have got this fraud that is basically centred on humans being human. And that hasn't changed over the years, but the one thing that has changed is the technology.
Yeah.
But then also the AI side of things, where the sophistication of that has ramped up over the years and can now create, if they didn't have a real photo of that guy in a hospital,
They can just create it.
they will just
Yeah.
create it using AI now. But not only that, it takes 30 seconds or less now of a voice to clone.
Yeah.
They can sit there and have, even though yours didn't offer it. And you, like me, wouldn't want to be sitting on a video call, because
no.
I'm that sort of person too.
This is so out of my comfort
It
zone.
really is out of mine
but it's
too.
for greater good.
And it's frightening how many cases.
Yeah.
I mean, there was £102 million lost to romance fraud last year, and we know that'll be an underreported figure as
Absolutely.
well.
Absolutely.
A 29% increase in 2025 on 2024. I imagine that's going to go through the roof. Overall losses equating to 280 grand every day. Individuals losing £9,500 on average.
Yeah.
I mean, Kirsty, the thing that gets me, the biggest thing with your case, and I will fight to highlight it for you, is the fact you've never got that money back. And it was because you missed those safeguards, didn't you, by so many months that are now in place to give victims their money back. But you are now wanting to speak out with your case to fight for other victims, for the mental health side of it, and to provide a fund for people like you that haven't got your money back. £100,000, that's a lot of money. People may wonder why you had that money. You're a businesswoman.
Yeah, I was a businesswoman, savings.
What are you now fighting for? As you've written to your MP, he said he's going to back you, hasn't he, with fighting. He's recognised that there are gaps within the system. He's acknowledged that in the statement we've had in response.
That's right.
What are you fighting for?
I'm fighting for people like myself and new victims that's going to happen, even though we've got these 50/50s in place, we've got the CRM code, we've got all these little extras now that I didn't have back then. So that's great, and that's movement in the right direction. The fact is I've had to start my life again. So I say this, it's a life after the lie, and it is so hard to get out of bed in the morning, let alone to repeat yourself to everybody. You ring report fraud, action fraud, you get a number. What good's a number when your whole life's falling down a black hole? What good's a number? What's good is speaking to people and then having to repeat it and regurgitate it time and time again. So you're reliving that agony constantly just because the person on the other end of that call says, I understand you're in a situation, but we still want to be paid. Or we'll give you 3 months, but then we're going to charge you the 3 months interest.
And you're now pushing, aren't you, for a fund? I mean, we should say that. I mean, report fraud, we asked them to look into your case. They said without the number that when you'd reported it at the time, it was to action fraud at the time. It's now report fraud. They couldn't find it. But I think that shows the gravity of the number of cases that are being dealt with potentially.
This is it.
So we haven't had a response from them. But I just wanted to sort of ask you, like, what do you want to set up, almost like a fund for victims, don't you, to help them in your scenario?
Yeah, I want to set up a fund for victims because when I came out of this and after I reported it to the police and I did everything I was supposed to do, everything went quiet. That was it. There was nothing. And I thought, so I've got no justice. I've got no money. All I've got is people rapping on my door or sending me letters saying they want paying. Your mortgage still got to be paid. Your car's got to be paid. The credit cards have to be paid. Everybody wants a piece of you, but there's nothing left of you to give. You can't just ring someone up and say, can you just help me and tell me what I need to do? Can you tell me where I need to go? Can someone give me some funding? Can someone help me to survive? I've got 4 kids. I need to feed them. There's none of that. So I don't understand why in this day and age, when the abuse and the coercion that you suffer and the manipulation is very similar to abuse in a marriage, or marital abuse, but yet we've got a plan in place for that. There's a little bit of help there, isn't there?
There's safeguards put in place for that.
There's guidance, there's help, there's a little bit of funding. Where is it for romance fraud? I mean, Kate's just said the statistics right there, you know. So what you're saying is you can't have your money back. You're not going to be reimbursed, but we're also not going to help you get out of it at all. And there's no way that you can come back from it. If I hadn't have had my family and I had to lean on them, I would not be sat here today because I would have taken my own life and none of this would never have happened. And we're letting people be in that situation. They shouldn't feel like there is no option. There is no door to walk through. There is nobody that they can turn to. Some people don't have family they can turn to, so there should be a body there that they can turn to, and there should be financial help because in the early days it is so touch and go and you don't know if you're even going to make it out the first week, let alone the first month. It is real baby steps. And I cannot believe that in this country we do so well and we've recognised the fact that we're in this pandemic of fraud. We are trying to put things in place. It's not happening quick enough. There is no funding for victims that fall through the cracks, and they do keep falling through the cracks. And that's what I want changed, and I want it changed with Parliament. And I'm not going to stop, Kate, until I get it.
And I think the thing that stands out to me is you are the good upholding of, you know, rights as a citizen in society, that person that everybody wants us to be. And yet you are the victim here, and effectively the fraudster, the criminal, has got away with this.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they've never been caught, you've lost your money. And how is that allowed to happen? I know the police are cracking down. We've seen there's been a couple of rings recently, haven't there? One in Africa, one in Europe. They are cracking down on the problem. But how has Kirsty still not got her money back? It just seems incredible to me.
We are in this ludicrous position yet again because successive governments have failed to ensure that the police are properly funded. We have got 45% of our fraud in this country is now crime. In this country is now fraud, but it's still only like 1% of funding
1%.
goes to the police. All these cases are incredibly complex. The fact that the majority of the perpetrators for Kirsty's type of romance fraud are overseas, trying to track down and work in different legal jurisdictions is virtually impossible for police that are working with no budget. And the cost of doing an investigation, one per person, would, even in Kirsty's instance, outweigh the cost of that kind of investigation. They are building relationships with the overseas law enforcement, but it's only just happening, and this has been going on for years. But there is something with funding that, you know, a lot of people don't know about, and there are proceeds of crime that banks, when they shut down those criminal accounts that have
them.
that money sits in pots. And as far as I'm concerned, we need to go and investigate this more together, because I've been told about this before, and they've said that's where you should be getting funding from Lovesaid, because that's one of Lovesaid's aims, was to be able to help victims like Kirsty. But us getting funding as an organisation, you know, we're the only organisation in the UK that supports romance fraud victims uniquely, because it is an incredibly unique fraud.
Yeah.
But why isn't this being used? You know, these pots of money that are sitting there that the banks have frozen for victims.
In this scenario, we find ourselves fraud growing, cases growing, new techniques, new technology, more of us falling foul to it. I've fallen foul to a couple of easy, simple things online recently. I think we all do, to simple tricks. It's just a magnified version of that. What could we do then? What quick fire tips and advice would you give to people? How can people be aware?
I think, as with this particular fraud, it's really, really important that we understand what healthy relationships look like. And healthy relationships are built over a long period of time. With an abuser, right the way through to these online criminals, they want to create this really, really intense, fast, overwhelming experience and relationship. And it's done for the purposes we talked about getting massive hits of dopamine. That's done through something that's become very well known called love bombing. But it's not normal. It's done for a purpose, to create that connection rapidly and with strength, so that they can do what they need to do. And you will notice that you're feeling that if this manipulation's happening. So I would say to anybody, if they feel like that very early on in a relationship, there's a reason why you feel like that. And we need to recognise it. And that should be our, let me take a step back for a few minutes.
So sort of almost trusting your gut. And just finally as well, we talked about schools. We think, you guys think there needs to be more in schools.
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to push myself as far into that as I possibly can, because I feel that the second years of, secondary school are very important. And I think going into A-level and also freshman year in university, these are the people that money muling are targeting. They want those people. They want their credit cards. They want their bank accounts. They want them. And the thing is they're going into this, and, you know, romance fraud, particularly, like we just said, it's only going up.
It's escalating.
It's escalating. So if we can stop it in school, you know, listen to my full story, listen to what it is like when it's over, and really understand where it takes you. And then they might, that little seed's been planted in that very young brain, and it'll always be there. It'll just live in there until sometimes they might go online and they'll get that feeling. And that it'll bring it to the forefront, and they'll go, wait a minute,
I remember.
I've heard of this. And that's where we should be.
Warning.
We need to protect our children now, so they don't go through what I've had to go through. I can't imagine my daughter coming home and telling me what I had to tell my parents. I don't know how I deal with it. I mean, you know, I remember looking at my dad, and what he said to me, which I told you, Kate, is he says, you are my daughter and I love you and I'll stand by you. We either brush it under the carpet or we go to the police, but either way, you are my daughter and I love you. Now, that is hard for a man to say to his daughter when he knows that she's about to take her own life.
She's broken.
She's broken. So let's stop that. Let's protect our children. Let's start protecting people that are in Britain, that are going through this as we speak in this place now.
Every day.
They're online talking to that partner that they think is going to give them a better life, that's going to come over and rescue them and love them because they want to be loved. We need to stop that, shut those doors and let them people stay where they are, but they're not coming into our country. And the banks need to protect us properly as well, instead of protecting their own profits.
Thank you, ladies, so much. And Kirsty, you're so incredibly brave for speaking, and I think you're just a huge advocate for this. And like I said to you earlier, keep speaking out because it's so important. And you're so incredibly strong.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we support you wholeheartedly and understand that, you know, this is coercive control. It's a different form. And thank you, Anna. Thank you ever so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Kate.